Pull over to the side of the road. Officer, what's the problem? I wasn't speeding. License and registration. Keep your hands where I can see them. Of course, my license is in my wallet. Registration is in the glove compartment. I'm reaching for them now. Step out of the vehicle. Can you tell me why you stopped me? I haven't violated any traffic laws. This vehicle doesn't match the registration. Step out now. This is my car. It's registered in my name. The registration is right here. You can verify everything. This car is worth over $90,000. Where did you get it? I bought it. I own a business. The purchase documents are in my insurance folder if you need to see them. You're being detained for investigation of a possible stolen vehicle. This isn't stolen. I can prove ownership right now. My name is James Carter. I own Carter Financial Services. This is my car. I don't care who you claim to be. You're being detained until we verify this vehicle isn't stolen. Officer Kyle Freeman had been with the Houston Police Department for 6 years when he pulled over a car that would destroy his career and cost the city $4 million. He was 30 years old, experienced enough to know proper procedures, but apparently convinced that his assumptions about who could afford luxury vehicles were more reliable than vehicle registration databases. One Saturday afternoon on Westthamer Road in the Galleria area of Houston, he saw a black man driving a Mercedes-Benz AMG GT and decided without running the license plate, without observing any traffic violation, without any legitimate probable cause that the vehicle must be stolen and the driver must be a criminal. That man was James Carter, a 41-year-old certified financial planner who had built a successful wealth management firm serving clients throughout Texas. What Freeman did next, ignoring valid registration documents, dismissing Carter's explanation of vehicle ownership, and detaining him on the side of a busy road for 47 minutes while running redundant checks searching for evidence that did not exist, would become proof of how racial profiling in traffic stops destroys lives and careers. The stop would be captured on dashboard camera and body camera footage. The lawsuit would be devastating. And the question that would haunt the Houston Police Department was this: how did an officer with 8 documented complaints for pretextual stops targeting black drivers remain on patrol long enough to detain a business owner for the crime of driving an expensive car while black? A black man in his early 40s wearing a polo shirt and driving a black Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. James Carter was heading west on Westthamer Road at 2:34 on a Saturday afternoon in June. He had just left a client meeting at a restaurant in River Oaks and was driving to his office in the Galleria area to prepare materials for a Monday presentation. His hands were at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. His speed was 38 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. He had used his turn signal for every lane change. No traffic violation, no mechanical issue, no legitimate reason for a stop. Just a successful black businessman driving his legally owned vehicle on a public road. But Officer Freeman saw him through assumptions so warped by racial bias that he could not process a black man in an expensive car as anything other than a suspect who required investigation. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Westthamer Road runs east to west through some of Houston's most affluent neighborhoods. The section where Officer Freeman initiated the stop is in the Galleria area, surrounded by upscale shopping centers, luxury apartment buildings, corporate office towers, and high-end restaurants. The road is 6 lanes wide at that point, 3 lanes in each direction, with a center turning lane. The area sees heavy traffic throughout the day with shoppers, business professionals, and residents navigating between the Galleria Mall, office complexes, and residential areas. It was 2:34 on a Saturday afternoon in June. The temperature was 94 degrees, typical Houston summer heat with humidity making it feel closer to 105. The sky was clear and bright, with intense sunlight reflecting off the glass buildings and car windshields. Traffic was moderate, not the weekday rush hour density, but steady flow with vehicles moving at posted speed limits. The sidewalks had pedestrians walking between shops and restaurants. The Galleria area attracts a diverse crowd, but skews toward affluent professionals and shoppers, with luxury cars common in parking lots and on roads. The neighborhood is predominantly white and upper income, though the business district employs people from across Houston's diverse metropolitan area. The retail establishments cater to high-end clientele with designer boutiques, expensive restaurants, and luxury service providers. Cars in the area range from practical sedans to exotic sports cars and luxury SUVs, with Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Lexus, and Tesla vehicles appearing frequently in traffic. James Carter had been driving through this area for 12 years, ever since he opened his financial planning practice in an office building 2 blocks from the Galleria. His office was on the 9th floor of a mid-rise building on Sage Road, where he employed 4 financial advisors, 2 client service specialists, and an administrative assistant. He drove this route multiple times per week, meeting clients at restaurants, attending networking events, and commuting between his office and his home in the museum district. That Saturday afternoon, Carter had met a client for lunch at a steakhouse in River Oaks to discuss retirement planning strategies. The meeting had concluded at 2:20, and Carter was driving to his office to prepare presentation materials for a seminar he was conducting Monday morning for prospective clients interested in wealth management services. He was wearing a navy blue Ralph Lauren polo shirt and khaki slacks, casual professional attire appropriate for a Saturday client meeting. His Mercedes-Benz AMG GT, purchased new 18 months earlier for $92,000, was registered in his name with current registration and insurance documentation in the vehicle. He had no idea that Officer Kyle Freeman, who had been parked in a shopping center parking lot monitoring traffic, was about to pull him over and turn a routine drive to the office into a 47-minute detention that would become a federal lawsuit and national news story about racial profiling. James Michael Carter had built his financial services career through education, hard work, and commitment to client service. Born in Houston's 3rd Ward neighborhood, he had grown up in a working-class family. His father had been a postal worker for 30 years. His mother had worked as a secretary at Houston Independent School District Central Administration. They had raised James and his younger sister in a modest home on Sampson Street, emphasizing education as the pathway to economic advancement. Carter had graduated from Yates High School in 2001. He had been accepted to the University of Houston, where he majored in finance with a minor in economics. He had worked part-time throughout college at a bank branch in downtown Houston, starting as a teller and advancing to personal banker, gaining experience in financial services while completing his degree. He had maintained a grade point average above 3.7 while working 20 to 30 hours per week to help pay for school. He graduated from the University of Houston in 2005 with a Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance. He had been hired by a regional investment firm as a financial advisor trainee, beginning the process of building a client base and earning professional credentials. For 3 years, he worked at the firm, learning investment strategies, financial planning techniques, and relationship management skills while studying for professional certifications. In 2008, Carter passed the Series 7 and Series 66 examinations required for securities registration. He had completed the requirements to become a certified financial planner, a rigorous credentialing process requiring education, examination, experience, and ethics standards. He had built a client base of over 100 individuals and families, managing investment portfolios and providing comprehensive financial planning services. In 2012, Carter had made the decision to open his own independent financial planning practice. He had secured office space, obtained the necessary registrations and licenses, transferred clients who chose to follow him from his previous firm, and launched Carter Financial Services. The practice had grown steadily over 12 years, expanding from Carter working alone to a team of 7 professionals serving over 400 client households with approximately $180 million in assets under management. Carter's practice specialized in helping clients with retirement planning, investment management, tax strategy, estate planning coordination, and comprehensive financial advice. His client base included professionals, business owners, retirees, and families building wealth for future generations. His reputation for thorough analysis, personalized service, and ethical practice had generated steady referrals and business growth. He had been recognized as a 5-star wealth manager by Texas Monthly Magazine multiple times based on client satisfaction surveys and professional credentials. At 41 years old, James Carter was exactly the kind of small business owner that communities value: successful, ethical, committed to client service, and active in professional organizations and community engagement. He served on the board of a nonprofit providing financial literacy education to underserved communities. He mentored young professionals interested in financial services careers. He had built a business that employed people, served clients, and contributed to the local economy. That Saturday, Carter had met with a client couple planning retirement in 3 years. They had discussed Social Security claiming strategies, Medicare enrollment, pension distribution options, and investment portfolio adjustments. The meeting had been productive, with the clients leaving confident about their retirement plan. Carter had ordered a light lunch, reviewed his notes, paid the check, and left the restaurant at 2:22 p.m. He had walked to his car parked on the street, a black Mercedes-Benz AMG GT coupe with gray leather interior. The vehicle had been purchased in January of the previous year from a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Houston. Carter had paid $30,000 down and financed the remainder through the dealership's lending program, making monthly payments of approximately $1,100. The car was titled and registered in his name. The registration was current, displayed on the windshield sticker showing expiration in March of the following year. His insurance was current and provided by a major carrier with documentation in the vehicle's glove compartment. Carter had driven a Mercedes-Benz for 6 years, having previously owned an E-Class sedan before trading it for the AMG GT. He appreciated German engineering, reliability, and performance. The car represented success achieved through years of education and hard work. It was a symbol of the business he had built and the financial stability he had created for his family. He had merged onto Westthamer Road, heading west toward his office. He was driving carefully, as he always did, conscious that expensive cars sometimes attracted attention from police and wanting no reason to be stopped. His speed was below the limit. He used turn signals for every lane change. He maintained proper following distance. He was simply driving to work. Officer Kyle Freeman saw Carter's Mercedes-Benz and made a decision based not on any traffic violation or suspicious behavior, but on a racist assumption that a black man could not legitimately own an expensive vehicle. Officer Kyle Andrew Freeman had been with the Houston Police Department for 6 years. In that time, he had compiled a disciplinary record demonstrating a clear pattern of pretextual traffic stops targeting black and Hispanic drivers, particularly those driving vehicles Freeman deemed too expensive for people of color to own legitimately. 8 formal complaints. 6 of them involved allegations of racially motivated stops, improper vehicle searches, or harassment during traffic stops of drivers of color. 2 complaints had been sustained, resulting in written reprimands and training. The other 6 had been closed as not sustained despite documentation, raising serious concerns about Freeman's patterns and motivations. The complaints revealed Freeman's consistent bias. He stopped black and Hispanic drivers for minor or fabricated violations, then extended stops with questions about vehicle ownership, demands to search vehicles, and redundant identification and warrant checks designed to find something incriminating rather than address the purported traffic violation. In 2018, Freeman had stopped a Hispanic attorney driving a BMW in the Museum District. He claimed the attorney had failed to signal a lane change, despite the attorney's dashboard camera showing the signal was used. Freeman had questioned the attorney extensively about where he worked, how he afforded the car, and whether the vehicle was really his. The attorney filed a complaint noting that Freeman seemed fixated on vehicle ownership rather than the alleged traffic violation. The department ruled it not sustained. In 2019, Freeman had stopped a black woman driving a Lexus SUV near Rice University. He claimed her temporary tags looked suspicious, despite the fact that the tags were valid and verifiable through the state database. Freeman had detained her for 35 minutes running multiple checks, questioning her about the vehicle purchase and asking to search the vehicle. She refused the search. Freeman eventually released her with a warning. She filed a complaint. The department ruled it not sustained. In 2020, Freeman had stopped a black man driving a Tesla Model S in Midtown. He claimed the vehicle had dark window tint that appeared illegal. The man showed documentation that the tint was within legal limits and had been professionally installed by a licensed shop. Freeman had asked how the driver afforded a Tesla, where he worked, and whether he had proof of income. The driver filed a complaint noting the questions were inappropriate and racially motivated. The department sustained the complaint and issued Freeman a written reprimand with bias training. In 2021, Freeman had stopped a Hispanic family in a Mercedes-Benz E-Class on the Southwest Freeway. He claimed they were following too closely to another vehicle. Freeman had questioned the father about vehicle ownership, asked to see purchase documents, and requested permission to search the vehicle for drugs. The family refused. Freeman detained them for 40 minutes before releasing them with a warning. The family filed a complaint. The department ruled it not sustained. In 2022, Freeman had stopped a black professional driving an Audi A6 near the Galleria. He claimed the driver had changed lanes without signaling, which the driver disputed. Freeman had run the driver's information through multiple databases, questioned him about his employment and income, and suggested the vehicle might be rented or borrowed. The driver was the registered owner with documentation in the car. The driver filed a complaint. The department ruled it not sustained. In early 2023, Freeman had stopped a black woman driving a Range Rover in the Heights neighborhood. He claimed she had been speeding, though his radar showed she was driving at the speed limit. Freeman had questioned her extensively about the vehicle, asked if it belonged to a boyfriend or family member, and suggested it was unusual for someone her age to own such an expensive car. The woman was a physician who had purchased the vehicle outright. She filed a complaint. The department sustained it and suspended Freeman for 5 days without pay with mandatory diversity training. Every complaint demonstrated the same pattern. Freeman stopped drivers of color in expensive vehicles, used pretextual or fabricated traffic violations as justification, then extended stops with intrusive questions about vehicle ownership and financial means. He operated from a racist assumption that black and Hispanic people could not legitimately afford luxury vehicles, and therefore must have obtained them through theft, rental, or other illegitimate means. The Houston Police Department had 8 documented complaints over 5 years. They had sustained 2. They had clear evidence of racial profiling. They had multiple opportunities to remove Freeman from patrol. They left him on the street. Do you think officers should be terminated after 2 sustained complaints for racially motivated stops rather than being allowed to accumulate 8 or more total complaints? Drop your answer below. Officer Freeman was parked in a shopping center parking lot on Westthamer Road when he saw James Carter drive past in the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. Freeman's attention was immediately drawn to the expensive vehicle being driven by a black man. He did not observe any traffic violation. He did not see erratic driving or mechanical issues. He simply saw a black man in a $90,000 car and decided investigation was warranted. Freeman pulled out of the parking lot and accelerated to catch up with Carter's vehicle. He activated his overhead lights at 2:34 p.m., initiating the stop. Carter saw the lights, checked his mirrors, activated his turn signal, and pulled carefully to the curb on Westthamer Road. He placed the vehicle in park, turned off the engine, rolled down his window, and placed both hands on the steering wheel in plain view, following protocols designed to ensure officer safety and avoid misunderstandings. Freeman approached the vehicle from the driver's side, his hand resting on his service weapon. His body camera was recording. The dashboard camera in his patrol car was recording. Every moment of what would become a 47-minute unlawful detention was documented. Pull over to the side of the road. Carter looked confused as he had already pulled over and was parked at the curb. Officer, I've already pulled over. What's the problem? I wasn't speeding. License and registration. Keep your hands where I can see them. Carter kept his hands on the steering wheel, visible to Freeman. Of course. My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach for them now. I'm moving slowly so you can see what I'm doing. Step out of the vehicle. Carter remained calm, though his confusion was growing. He had not been told why he was stopped, and being ordered out of the vehicle suggested something more than a routine traffic stop. Can you tell me why you stopped me? I haven't violated any traffic laws. This vehicle doesn't match the registration. Step out now. This is where assumptions become accusations. Freeman had not yet seen the registration, yet he was already claiming it did not match the vehicle. He had made a determination based solely on seeing a black man in an expensive car that something must be wrong. Carter took a slow breath, maintaining his composure. Officer, this is my car. It's registered in my name. The registration is right here in the glove compartment. You can verify everything. He reached slowly for the glove compartment, opened it, and retrieved the registration document along with his insurance card. He handed both to Freeman along with his driver's license from his wallet. Freeman examined the documents. The registration clearly showed the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT, the vehicle identification number matching the car Carter was driving, registered to James Michael Carter at a Houston address. The license showed Carter's photo, name, and address. The insurance card showed current coverage for the vehicle. Freeman stared at the documents, looking for something, anything, that would justify his assumption that this car and this driver did not match. Finding nothing on the documents themselves, he shifted his approach. This car is worth over $90,000. Where did you get it? Carter stared at Freeman, recognizing what was happening but maintaining professional composure. I bought it. I own a business. I'm a certified financial planner. The purchase documents are in my insurance folder if you need to see them. Freeman's expression showed skepticism. You're being detained for investigation of a possible stolen vehicle. This isn't stolen. I can prove ownership right now. My name is James Carter. I own Carter Financial Services. My office is 2 blocks from here. This is my car. I've owned it for 18 months. I have the title, the purchase agreement, the financing documents, everything you need to verify ownership. Freeman ignored the explanation. I don't care who you claim to be. You're being detained until we verify this vehicle isn't stolen. Freeman walked back to his patrol car, taking Carter's license, registration, and insurance card with him. Carter remained in his vehicle, hands visible, confused, and frustrated, but unwilling to give Freeman any reason to escalate the situation. For the next 30 minutes, Freeman ran multiple checks through various databases. He checked for outstanding warrants on Carter. None existed. He checked the vehicle identification number through the National Crime Information Center database to determine if the car was reported stolen. It was not. He ran Carter's driver's license through multiple systems looking for any violations or flags. The license was valid with no suspensions or restrictions. He called the Mercedes-Benz dealership, where the vehicle had been purchased, to verify the sale. The dealership confirmed Carter had purchased the vehicle in January of the previous year and that all payments were current. Every check confirmed what the registration documents already showed. James Carter was the legitimate owner of the vehicle. The car was not stolen, and there was no basis for the stop or the continued detention. Freeman returned to Carter's vehicle at 3:09 p.m., 35 minutes after the initial stop. I need you to step out of the vehicle so I can search it. Carter's patience was wearing thin, but he maintained control. Officer, you've had my registration and license for 35 minutes. You've verified I own this car. You've confirmed it's not stolen. I haven't committed any traffic violation. You have no probable cause to search my vehicle. I do not consent to a search. Freeman's face reddened. If you don't consent, I'll call a K-9 unit. That's your right, Carter said calmly. But I know my rights as well. You have no reasonable suspicion that I've committed a crime. You have no probable cause to search. I've been cooperative. I've provided all requested documentation. I've answered your questions. I'm asserting my Fourth Amendment right to refuse this search. By this point, other motorists had slowed to observe the stop. A white woman in a car behind Carter's vehicle had pulled out her phone and was recording. Several pedestrians on the sidewalk had stopped to watch. Freeman stood beside Carter's vehicle, clearly frustrated that his fishing expedition had found nothing and that Carter was asserting his constitutional rights. He had no legitimate basis to extend the stop further. He had no probable cause for a search. He had verified vehicle ownership. He had no traffic violation to cite. He had nothing except his racist assumption that a black man should not be driving an expensive car. At 3:13 p.m., Freeman returned Carter's documents. You're free to go. Drive safely. No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement that he had detained a man for 47 minutes based on nothing more than racial bias and assumptions about who could afford luxury vehicles. Carter took his documents and spoke in a controlled voice. Officer, I'm going to ask for your name and badge number. I'll be filing a formal complaint about this stop. You had no probable cause to stop me. You detained me for 47 minutes despite verifying that I own this vehicle and have committed no violation. This was racial profiling. Freeman provided his information, his expression showing no concern about the complaint. He had heard similar statements before. Previous complaints had resulted in minimal consequences. He had no reason to believe this would be different. He was wrong. Carter drove to his office, immediately documented every detail of the stop while the memory was fresh, and began researching civil rights attorneys who specialized in police misconduct cases. The woman who had recorded part of the stop on her phone posted the video to social media that evening with a description of what she had witnessed. Within hours, the video had been shared thousands of times. By Monday morning, Houston news stations were calling the police department for comment. Civil rights organizations were demanding investigation, and James Carter had retained one of Houston's most respected civil rights attorneys to pursue litigation. Should officers be required to articulate specific probable cause before detaining drivers for extended periods during traffic stops? Let me know what you think. The dashboard camera and body camera footage showed everything. Freeman initiating a stop with no observed traffic violation. Freeman claiming the registration did not match the vehicle before examining the documents. Freeman questioning how Carter could afford the car. Freeman detaining Carter for 47 minutes while running redundant checks that all confirmed legitimate ownership. Freeman demanding to search the vehicle despite having no probable cause. Carter calmly asserting his rights and refusing consent to an unlawful search. The videos went viral. Local news coverage expanded to national attention. The headlines captured the injustice. Houston officer stops black business owner, questions how he affords Mercedes. Cop detains financial planner for 47 minutes because expensive car didn't match his race. Black professional questioned about vehicle ownership despite valid registration. James Carter stopped for driving while black in luxury car. The Houston chapter of the NAACP demanded Officer Freeman's termination and a comprehensive review of traffic stop patterns. The Texas Civil Rights Project called for investigation into racial profiling practices. The Houston mayor's office announced that the police department would review the stop and Freeman's complaint history. Officer Kyle Freeman was placed on desk duty pending investigation. The internal affairs investigation took 8 weeks. The findings were clear and damning. Freeman had initiated a stop without probable cause or reasonable suspicion of any traffic violation. He had extended the stop far beyond what was necessary to verify registration and licensing. He had questioned Carter about matters unrelated to any traffic issue, specifically focusing on vehicle affordability and ownership in ways that suggested racial bias. His demand to search the vehicle lacked probable cause. His pattern of 8 prior complaints, 6 involving similar issues with stops of drivers of color in expensive vehicles, demonstrated ongoing discriminatory conduct. Freeman was terminated 9 weeks after the stop. The termination letter was comprehensive. Officer Freeman conducted a traffic stop without observing any violation, detained a driver for 47 minutes without probable cause, and questioned the driver about matters unrelated to traffic enforcement in ways that demonstrate racial bias. This incident represents the 9th complaint against Officer Freeman, with 7 involving allegations of racially motivated stops and harassment of drivers of color. Despite prior discipline and training, Officer Freeman has demonstrated a persistent pattern of pretextual stops targeting people of color in vehicles he deems too expensive for them to own legitimately. His employment with the Houston Police Department is terminated effective immediately. Freeman's name was entered into the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Officer Standards and Education database with a notation about the termination reason, making future law enforcement employment difficult. At 30 years old, his police career was over. The federal lawsuit James Carter filed was extensive. He sued Officer Kyle Freeman individually for unlawful detention, violation of 4th Amendment rights, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection rights, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. He sued the city of Houston for failure to train, failure to supervise, negligent retention of an officer with a documented pattern of racially motivated stops, and maintaining policies that permitted officers with multiple complaints for racial bias to remain on patrol. The city's legal team reviewed the body camera and dashboard camera footage, the documentation of Freeman's 8 prior complaints, the internal affairs investigation findings, and witness statements. Their assessment was unambiguous. The case was indefensible. The city settled 13 months after the incident. The settlement was $4 million. James Carter donated $500,000 to organizations providing legal aid for individuals unable to afford attorneys to challenge unlawful police stops and searches. Should police departments be required to track and publicly report data on traffic stops, disaggregated by driver race and vehicle value, to identify patterns of discriminatory enforcement? Comment your thoughts below. James Carter testified before the Houston City Council 10 months after the stop. The chamber was filled with business owners, civil rights advocates, community members, and journalists. His testimony was professional and powerful. I have been a certified financial planner for 16 years. I have built a business that serves over 400 families, manages nearly $200 million in client assets, and employs 7 people. I have worked hard to achieve success. I have earned the ability to afford a nice car. I drive a Mercedes-Benz that I purchased legally, financed through a dealership, and have owned for 18 months. He paused, making eye contact with council members. On that June afternoon, I was driving from a client meeting to my office. I was obeying all traffic laws. I was driving carefully, as I always do. Officer Freeman stopped me not because I committed any violation, but because I am a black man driving a car he decided I should not be able to afford. Another pause. He questioned where I got the car. He suggested the registration might not match the vehicle before even looking at the documents. When I showed him registration, insurance, and my driver's license proving ownership, he detained me for 47 minutes running redundant checks searching for something wrong. When every check confirmed legitimate ownership, he demanded to search my vehicle. When I refused and asserted my constitutional rights, He threatened to call a K-9 unit. He had no probable cause. He had no reasonable suspicion. He had nothing except his racist assumption that black people cannot legitimately afford luxury vehicles. His voice remained measured but carried clear authority. Officer Freeman had 8 prior complaints. 8. 6 involved similar stops of black and Hispanic drivers in nice cars. 2 were sustained. The department disciplined him minimally and sent him to training. They documented the pattern and left him on patrol where he continued stopping people of color and questioning whether they legitimately own their vehicles. This was predictable. This was preventable. The department failed to prevent it. The conclusion was direct. This is not about one officer's bias. This is about systems that allow officers to accumulate multiple complaints for racial profiling without career consequences. It is about departments that treat diversity training as sufficient intervention when the evidence shows training alone does not change behavior. It is about a culture that permits pretextual stops targeting people of color because those stops are harder to challenge and easier to dismiss as legitimate law enforcement. The room was silent when he finished. Should traffic stops require documented observation of specific violations rather than allowing officers to stop vehicles based on subjective judgment about whether drivers match their vehicles? Drop your answer. This case was not about one traffic stop or one officer questioning one driver. This was about a system that allowed Kyle Freeman to accumulate 8 complaints over 5 years without removal from patrol. This was about a department that treated training as adequate remedy despite evidence that Freeman's behavior did not change after mandated diversity workshops. This was about a policing culture that permitted pretextual stops targeting people of color as long as officers could articulate any potential violation, no matter how minor or fabricated. 8 complaints in 5 years. That is not random bad luck or difficult encounters. That is a documented pattern of racial profiling. A pattern the Houston Police Department had in writing, sustained in 2 investigations, and failed to address adequately until Freeman stopped a business owner whose resources and connections enabled effective legal challenge. The stop of James Carter was the inevitable result of inadequate accountability systems. Freeman believed he could stop black drivers based on racist assumptions about vehicle ownership without career consequences, because the department had taught him through years of insufficient discipline that complaints would result in training requirements rather than termination. He was wrong, but only because this time his target was a successful business owner with the financial resources to pursue federal litigation and the professional credibility to generate media attention that forced accountability. James Carter's lawsuit cost Houston $4 million. That is accountability. Kyle Freeman's career is over. That is consequence. The department announced policy changes requiring documented violations for traffic stops. That is institutional response. But financial settlements and policy announcements do not undo the humiliation of being questioned about vehicle ownership on a public street. They do not restore the dignity of being detained for 47 minutes while an officer searches for evidence that does not exist. They do not erase the message that even valid registration, even proof of purchase, even professional success is insufficient protection from officers who have decided based on race that you cannot legitimately own what you have earned. The real question is, what changes now? Does Houston finally remove officers after 2 sustained complaints for racial bias, instead of allowing patterns to reach 8 or more incidents? Does the department finally recognize that training without enforcement is performative rather than transformative? Do we finally acknowledge that pretextual traffic stops disproportionately targeting people of color are not legitimate law enforcement, but racial harassment with badges? Because if we do not fix the systems that kept Freeman on patrol for 5 years despite documented racial profiling, if we do not address the culture that permitted him to question vehicle ownership based on driver race, then we are simply waiting for the next officer, the next business owner or professional or student, the next roadside detention proving that driving while black remains a crime in America despite being called a free country. Comment if you believe this should be law. Officers who conduct traffic stops without documented traffic violations face automatic suspension, and officers with 2 sustained complaints for pretextual stops targeting people of color are permanently removed from patrol duties. And if you think these stories need to be told, if you believe accountability requires exposure and change demands sustained public pressure, then hit that subscribe button. We are not stopping. We are going to keep exposing these patterns. We are going to keep demanding better. We are going to keep fighting for the business owners, the professionals, the ordinary people who deserve to drive legally owned vehicles without being criminalized for their race. This is not just about one officer or one business owner or one city. This is about all of us and the policing system we choose to tolerate or the system we demand must change.